Today's episode of the Junkies Podcast is brought to you by Outlaw Leather, makers of the coolest custom welding hoods in the game. Not only does Outlaw make awesome hoods, they're great people and their products are handmade right in Pasadena, Texas. I've had the pleasure of touring their facility and it's top notch. From cutting the leather to hand painting and stitching, it's all done in-house to make sure that each custom piece lives up to the name, expectations, and reputation of Outlaw Leather. You can submit a custom order for a hood, bolt bag, arm pad, or any other leather work by emailing info@outlawleatherllc.com or go to their website, outlawleather.com, and pick from a wide variety of stock handmade hoods and leather gear. If you buy through their website, make sure to use ARC Junkies in the comment section at checkout and get 15% off all pre-made leather goods. And while you're there, check out their drop-in ADF lenses, hood fasteners, and other accessories to customize the look and performance of your hood. And if you're in the Pasadena area, be sure to pop into the storefront and check out all the gear in person. Tell them the ARC Junkies sent you. We're also brought to you by Rockmount Research and Alloys. Need to do some hard facing? Check out Rockmount's Apollo A. Apollo A has been developed to produce the most crack-resistant welds on heavy equipment. Impact loads on Apollo A deposits produce considerable work hardening to resist wear. In addition, this alloy has extraordinary strength combined with excellent ductility with 30% elongation, making it superior for metal-to-metal wear applications. Apollo A is just one of Rockmount's many rods and wires that have been developed to help you weld stronger so your equipment can last longer. Check them out today at rockmountwelding.com and see their full line of electrodes to help you get that repair done the first time, every time. And while you're there, take advantage of 10% off all their abrasives, bits, burrs, and blades when you use ARC Junkies 10 in the discount box at checkout. I also want to let y'all know about an upcoming meet and greet at FabTech. Make sure to stop by the Hard Rock Cafe Velvet Underground Tuesday evening from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. for the biggest collaborative meetup in 2020. Stop by and meet up with folks like Weldporn, Blue Demon, Outlaw Leather, Rugged Charms, Fronius, Flame Tech Scorpion, Up and Smoke Welding Apparel, Stephanie Hoffman with Underground Metalworks, and yours truly at the ARC Junkies Podcast. The first 100 people through the door get 2 free drink tickets, and everyone else will get to take home a commemorative cup. There's also going to be food available, so come by, grab a drink, a bite to eat, and come out and network. It's a night you won't want to miss. All right, everyone, welcome to show number 247 of the ARC Junkies Podcast. My guest today is Donny Sparacimino out of Toronto, Canada, a self-taught welder that started out as a computer programmer who found a passion for welding while trying to make money to go to school. Donny has a really interesting story about teaching himself to weld well enough to get into pipe fabrication. All right, you know what time it is. Fire up your machines, drop your hood, and turn me up 5.
You're listening to the ARC Junkies Podcast, helping you make every weld better than your last with each episode. And now your host, Jason Becker.
Joining me today is Donny Sparacimino. Did I get it right again?
Yes, sir. You got
Perfect.
it spot on.
With Strikecore Welding on Instagram. Donny, you got kind of a unique story about how you got into welding. I guess you started off, you wanted to go to school for computer programming and tripped and fell on a welding hood and got into it or whatever. How'd that work out?
Yes, sir. So when I was 18, I was working at McDonald's. I was really good at computer programming by a fluke. And I decided that's what I was going to go to school for, but I had to save for it. So instead of working at McDonald's, a buddy of mine's brother was doing shipping and receiving in a welding shop, welding up fences. Of course, that's always where I feel like everyone starts, either that or cast iron stoves, and so basically I started in this shop, and my boss brought me in for an interview. And when he brought me in for the interview, he's like, "Oh, have you ever touched a welder? Yada, yada, yada." And I BS'd, and I was like, "Yeah, man, for sure. I know how to MIG weld, all this stuff, And I get into the shop on my first day. And when I get into there, the guy gets me to tack it up. I've never touched a machine in my life. Start tacking up these fences. And luckily I didn't blow any holes. He's looking at it, he goes, "Looks good." and he grabs it and goes right to our jig and starts smashing it off the jig like 2 or 3 times, and all my welds just rattled. And then I realized what game I was in for. Yeah, and then basically from there on, I went on to school, saved money there, went on to school. And when I got to school, I realized in computer programming, you're competing with the world. You're not just competing with the guys in my local area. And I was good, but I wasn't that good. So I sat there and I was like, what am I going to do? And I decided, you know what? I really liked welding. And, I come from my family has a farm. So I kind of had the hands on already. So yeah, I decided to go back and try and get into welding. So I went around, couldn't find a job, got into landscaping, but they saw that I had welding as my skills. And they had an old, like one of those no dial, no nothing, like, rotary crank Lincoln machines. And he's
Okay.
like, we're always breaking down. He's like, give it a shot. So they had me welding my first day there. Luckily, I knew a little bit of stick from like the farming world. And yeah, I started running some stick there and it was going well. Decided to go to night school and it was good. Night school was good. I went to like a normal college program. And when I got into that program, I thought it was going to be like super hands-on, like all the guys I see on Instagram, probably like your programs and the Weld Tech guys and stuff, like really into it. And it was kind of like sit in front of your welder and show me your pieces, and I'll look up from my phone and tell you if I think they're good.
Oh wow. And you
So
went to school up in Canada.
yeah, up in
Wow.
Canada.
That
Yeah, it was like a
sounds like
normal Sheridan college. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't sound like the Canadian schools that that I've heard other people talk about. It sounds a lot more like some of the schools we have down here where the instructors kind of try to teach welding from their office,
Yeah,
and
right
it's
on.
like it's not an effective way to do that. You've got to be like when I taught, it would be like booth to booth to booth to booth to booth, and then like once you get to the end of one booth, kind of reset like an old school typewriter and back to booth number one. Let me check in with that student. So I mean, to hear that, that's kind of the welding, the introductory to welding that you had. That's pretty disheartening.
Well, it was kind of like from that moment, I was like, all right, time to teach myself. So like from the beginning, all the way from BSing the shop, like getting in there, it was all right, teach myself as fast as I can. So these guys want me to stick around, and luckily, I'm pretty decent at learning quickly. I mean, throughout my career, everywhere I've been, I kind of never had a guy take me under his wing or had a real teacher. So it was like every shop I went into, they threw me into the thick of it, and I carried on that kind of BSE thing in order to increase my pay. Because if I was like, oh, I just tack fences and I'm applying for some job with $5 or $10 more, right? They're never going to take me. So the next shop I went to after that was I got into an aluminum company, and when I got into what they did is they built custom trade show booths. So when I got in there, I told them, yeah, I've MIG'd aluminum, no big deal. I've TIGGed aluminum, not really had much TIG experience at all. And I mean, it wasn't anything structural, so I didn't feel like I was cheating anyone, like, BSing. And I get in there and I did my test, and it wasn't that much different. They had all the machines set up. They didn't crank anything to zero for me. So I kind of just got to plug and play on these machines. And yeah, it was kind of the start of me teaching myself.
Damn. Now, what other like methods did you utilize to teach yourself how to weld? Because like I scrolled through your Instagram profile and you don't look like a self-taught welder. And I
Thanks,
mean that as a
man.
compliment. Like, what other methods did you use? Did you watch like YouTube videos or read books or like any other sort or any other form of like visually checking something out? Like, hey, am I doing this right? What's it supposed to look like? How's it supposed to sound? What's it supposed to feel like?
I always say I have like a PhD in YouTube.
There you go.
Like
YouTube
I
University.
I'd go on YouTube, I'd see the job, okay, I got the interview. Okay, what's the welding?
Yeah.
Okay, it's aluminum. All right, let's look up aluminum. Started looking up aluminum. And I was like, okay, when I get in there, at least I'm familiar with what I'm touching. But yeah, I definitely the hood time, which now I realize is everything. I mean, I'm one of those guys where I'm like, I have guys on Instagram asking me all the time, like, how'd you teach yourself, and is there anything I can do and whatever. And you can teach yourself a lot of stuff. You can be familiar when you get in the shop, but
Yeah.
that hood time will teach you everything.
Yeah, there's
And
no supplement for hood time. And like I've seen a lot of schools that they're like, "Oh yeah, we're going to put the students in the classroom the first half of the term and then, we'll put them out into the lab the second half of the term." It's like, "No, you can't teach welding that way. It's got to be hands-on. You've got to, be out there in the booth under the hood every single day, putting your hands on everything, making sure that, you understand exactly what's going on. You can't teach it out of a textbook. You can't teach it with, I've seen some of the schools use a simulator as not as supplementary to the welding, but as like a replacement for the welding, because they're like, oh, it's cheaper if we run them through a simulator, instead of, setting them up on an actual welding machine. We're going to save material, and we'll save, electricity, and we're going to save all this other stuff, by putting them through on a simulator. It's like, no, you have to put your hands on it. You've got to touch it, feel it, smell it, hear it, like everything. There's no other way to do it. You got to get hood time.
Yeah, 100%. When I see those sims, like they could be supplementary, like in a sense,
Yeah.
but like feeling even like a recoil of the rattling of a MIG gun or whatever, that tells me quite a bit. I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, I can just, I can hear MIG pretty good, but I'm not one of those guys. I wouldn't flex and say, oh, I can just hear everything that's going on. But yeah, it's definitely hood time, and really varying up everything I did. It was kind of like once I got into a company, I would look for someone to kind of teach me, and I'd pick from different guys. But it was like learn as much as I can, and I really wanted to be a well-rounded welder. So it was like learn as much as I can, and then like once I'm cool here and I'm cool with my bosses and everything, it's kind of like, all right, guys, like thank you for teaching me everything. Like I'm on to the next type of welding.
I got what I needed, and find another place.
Yeah, it was like I built my own apprenticeship. Like there wasn't like, it's funny because companies I applied to before my Instagram and stuff, they kind of brushed me off, or even unions, they were kind of like, I remember I had a union guy say, I used to call them all the time and be like, hey man, when are you intaking? When are you intaking? And I think the guy kind of got fed up with me one day, and he's like, you know what I do when guys call, or when I'm looking for new guys, when all my guys are in the field? He's like, I go through stacks. That's exactly what he said. He was like, stacks of applications. And he's like, I picked the one I like. And that was another moment, like critical moment in my career, where I was like, I'm doing this myself. Like there's no handouts,
Damn, what was the learning curve like?
I mean, every company I got into, super aggressive at the beginning, mellows out. And then I kind of like, once I've got to that plateau, I tune everything. Like I'm talking skill wise, I'll tune my skill. And then not that I get bored, but once I feel like I'm pretty good at it, it's like, okay, take everything I got from there, and let's like, it doesn't even have to be a new process. I could go from MIG one place, MIG to another place. And as long as it's, different things, I kind of have to be stimulated in that sense. But this is the first place I've got to where, it's been a real challenge teaching yourself pipe, stainless pipe. Taught myself RMD, taught myself pulse. Like that took me longer than all the other stuff. So I've been here for quite a bit, and it's going well.
Yeah, there's a lot to like RMD and STT and pulse and everything like that. And a lot of people are. I was talking to Nate Bowman about it a while back. That people are really apprehensive to utilize some of the newer technology. But if you can get that equipment in your shop and you can train your employees relatively quick, because a lot of these processes they're super intuitive. And then some of them, they're like synergic. So like if you're like, oh yeah, this isn't just how I want it, you can just reach over and jack up the wire feed speed or crank it down, and it's automatically going to preset your voltage where it needs to be. Now you just maintain contact tip to work distance. You know what it should sound like and look like. So you just keep dicking around with that, just one setting until everything's like flowing smooth. Like STT is very, very similar to RMD. I haven't had a chance to mess around a whole lot with RMD. But it's a great process, especially for open root, pipe welding or any type of open root application. It's an awesome process.
Oh yeah, it's definitely quicker for me. I've seen some TIG guys like rip, like I've seen them go pretty quick. But yeah, for me, I was on the Instagram phase where I always thought MIG welding was not fun, and I always wanted to get out of MIG welding. I wanted TIG welding. That's what you see. That's what I wanted. And recently, within the last like 6 months, I taught myself and passed my certs on like backfeeding TIG on stainless. And yeah, when I started doing that, I realized how good RMD was, because it cut my time, like I'd say in half. Even fitting, Like now when I'm doing my pipe fitting, I'm a one-man show, so I see a lot of guys in my comments like that's what a helper's for. I don't got one of those.
Yeah.
So it's like press the pipe up like against my stomach and line it up with my bottom hand and like, get it going. I'm in like a super new shop. So I kind of got handed drawings and was like, run with it. Right.
I was gonna ask you about your fit up because like I said, I was scrolling through your Instagram and you're like manually fitting everything up. But you got to check out. There's a couple tools I wanted to recommend to you that'll make your life like so much easy. Or so much easier. I think it's Sumner. Yeah, Sumner internal pipe clamps. So you
Yes,
just run the
I've seen
apparatus
those.
on the inside, and then you spin it, and it expands on the inside of the pipe. You set your gap exactly where you need it, and then it squares it off, levels it off, and keeps everything internal till you get your tacks in. And then I seen one the other day on the Weld Porn account. It's the tentacle one. Have you seen that?
No, I
Oh,
don't
you
think
you
so.
got to check this thing out. It's got like a piece of angle iron on the backside with like little interlocking pieces, and then you wrap like it's a stainless steel cable around,
Yes.
and so it loops on two sides of the pipe. So so you like wherever you're setting the gap, so you can set it up vertically, horizontal, whatever position you want to, and then you set your gap, and then just crank it down, and it tightens up on that stainless steel cable and holds everything in place where you can put your tack welds in.
Yeah, 100%. I have seen that. Not on I didn't know the name of it, but I seen that. It's funny whenever I'm like classic welder, whenever I see these fit up tools, I'm like I could build that.
Yeah.
Like it's always like except for that internal one, that thing would be.
Yeah, that'd be
I've
a
seen
mess. Try to
I've
build it.
seen those used on like the pipeline. Where like they run that huge thing through the pipe and they just run all the way down. But yeah, I mean, I know the way I'm doing it is not the like easiest way, but it was kind of like what we had. The story with the shop I'm in now was I'm big into skateboarding, and this guy runs skate competitions at my skate park, and I've known him for years. And one day he got to asking me after like 4 years, well, oh, what do you do for work? I'm like, oh, I'm a welder. He goes, oh, I own a pipe welding shop.
How
I'm like,
convenient.
no way. Yeah, no way. Right. So I'm like, oh, cool. And it's not like he sold it to me like the pipe shop was already running, but that's what I thought. So I show up, I come in for some test welds. I see the shop's like kind of empty. They got like a welder and a positioner and whatever. And then he's like, you got a job. So I quit my job. I get in there and I realize that we're starting from the ground up. Like there's no one to teach me. There's nothing. And again, this starting a company and thinking someone's going to teach me. And then it was like I was bred to be for this company, because I get in here and I'm like, okay, like, handed these drawings and we were doing big pipe at that time. Like 3 months in teaching myself after I got ticketed, I was doing 18-inch branches,
Damn.
like just with a gantry crane. And like, we don't have much equipment, but now that I've been doing it for a year and a half, it's like, I can't picture doing it other way, even though I know there's so many, like, so there's times I'm doing things and I'm like, there's an easier way to
There's
do
got to
this.
be. Yeah, I used to kick myself all the time. I was like, there's got to be an easier way. I mean, it's really cool, like, being in a shop, starting from the ground up, because you're going to learn a lot of stuff. And I mean, that's what's really going to sink in, and that's what you'll be able to teach other people later on down the road. But it's also cool to have like an older person in the shop that can say, hey, you know what? You're looking for an easier way. Here's how you do it. And then it's like, oh, damn, why didn't I, it's like simple shit. Like when I used to fit up pipe in the shop back when I was in the field, or like when I was working with the ironworkers, we did a lot of stuff for a lot of the theme parks. And so like handrails, trying to line all that stuff up, and you're like just trying to figure stuff out, and you don't know what you don't know. So you're trying to figure out an easier way. And then my buddy's like, oh, here, take this piece of angle iron, put it on either side, and then, set up these two pipe clamps. One's got a flat side on the bottom. The other one's, it'll kind of curve around the sections of the pipe, and then you can fit it up that way. And I'm like, oh, that's freaking brilliant. Or like, notching a section of that angle iron out so you can get a couple more tacks in there. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do it. But, starting at a shop, ground up, I mean, you're going to learn a whole lot just by, essentially trial by fire. And it's a good way to learn
Yeah.
stuff because that's really going to sink in. You're really going to remember, like, okay, versus somebody showing you something and you forget, you're going to have that experience,
Yeah, it's like, well, it's kind of like be presented the problem and figure it out. It was like getting handed a drawing, and we got to do this. It needs to be done by this date, and I just figured it out. And the thing is what the thing with welding that makes it welding is these aren't like Googleable questions.
Yeah.
Like, how do I get an 18-inch pipe that's out of round into round while trying to fit it? And, like all these crazy questions, but in like a veteran guy, you ask him that question, he's like, no
Oh, yeah.
problem, like
Yeah.
quick. And that's kind of why I started the Instagram. Was my boss was kind of like, hey man, like, do something where you can get people to answer your questions. So when I started my Instagram, like whatever, 70 followers, I'm annoying everyone, messaging everyone. Hey, how you doing this? How's that going? Da 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 da. And yeah, I mean, you know what? The community's been great. I've learned a ton from these guys. Like these guys on Instagram have been my mentors in that sense.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing about, and I say it all the time, that's the cool thing about Instagram, especially the welding community. And I know that the welding community is like, it's vastly different than the other skilled trades communities. And I know that because I'm, like part of a nonprofit, and like all of they just don't have that camaraderie that the welding community has. And it's cool because like long before I met some of these people in person, some of the people that are really like, before I met Dabs Wellington in person, before I met Mark Winchester, had him on the show. I actually get to meet him in person at FabTech this year, so I'm super stoked about that. Same thing with Dusty James. Like I could reach out and ask them questions like, hey, how are you getting the colors in your stainless like that? Or how are you getting, where are your settings on your machine? And they're like completely open book. They're like, oh, set your machine here, boom, 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 check out, travel speed. Same thing with Nate Bowman. Long before, he and I became good friends, we would chit chat back and forth about, all kinds of welding related stuff. Like, how do you do this? How do you get into that? What's the best way to do this? And like the community was always, readily available. And that was before like anybody knew me. I just had like an Instagram account and I was a welding instructor, and I was like, students are showing me pictures of these people's work. So I'd follow them and be like, hey man, how are you doing this? Because my students are like super interested, and they're like, oh yeah, set it up just like this and da 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 da. Like they're very freely giving their information out. And it's really cool to be part of that community and see that, and, see a group of people that are so willing to help others out versus, I mean, there's some people that they're going to be like, oh, I'm not going to tell you. It's like trade secret. And it's like, it's not a trade secret.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what's your pulse setting, jackass? Like,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. The only time I ever got a little flaky was a guy asked me for a picture of my welding procedure. And I was like,
that's a
okay,
little
we're
bit different.
crossing a
Yeah.
line a
We're
little bit.
crossing some
Yeah,
lines
yeah,
there because,
yeah.
yeah, there's
I'll
some
give you
legal
some
issues.
settings.
Yeah. There's some legal issues in there. That's, I
Yeah.
got a hard time passing out WPSs for random applications. Like I've built them. There's a dude out in California. He was running a welding competition. He's like, hey, can you like build me some WPSs for this welding competition? I was like, yeah, sure. So I put in the notes, it's for a welding competition. So you gotta cover your ass a little bit when you put stuff out like that, not to be used in construction and all that. But yeah, I mean, it's really cool to, be able to send out documents and stuff like that and be part of that community. But yeah, you got to be careful sharing like PQRs, WPSs, because people just like steal it and put their name at the top, and then boom, next thing you know, they trace it back to you, and your ass is in trouble.
Yeah, and it ends up on Reddit or something.
Yeah.
And every shop's running your settings.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like that's your procedure. That's
Mhm.
what your company's built upon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, in terms of the community helping me out, it's been pretty rad. Like, of course, you get the trolls, and me and a couple guys who started on Instagram at the same time, and our accounts kind of blew up at the same time. We have a group chat called Keyboard Inspectors, and we just send each other like funny comments we get. Like, I got a guy that messaged me the other day that I posted a picture of a blueprint I was doing, and he sent me, "It's easy." That's it, and then proceeded to send me pictures of his welds. And I told him, I don't like get in conflict at all. I'm like, dude, those look good. I've had trolls in the comments actually help me out and actually apologize.
Yeah.
Guys look at my things and go, dude, you're doing, you're trash. You're doing this so wrong. You should do it. Why are you doing it this way? And I'll message them back and be like, dude, how would you do it? Like, how, and then they tell me how they do it, and I'll be like, dude, I'll try that next time, because that's how I'm learning. I don't care if you're rude to me. If I learn from you, then I win.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, but in terms of everything else, it's been great.
Yeah, it's really cool to see that. Kind of going back to procedures, like just to explain to people how valuable they are when certain companies, when they sell their company or they get acquired by another company, part of that purchase is the documents that they have. You already have procedures written. cool. That makes your company this much more valuable. I know companies that are out there that have been running the same welding procedures since like the mid 70s. And, like when they got, when they got acquired by another company, like all that intellectual property goes with the company. And,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
have it all. Now they've got all these procedures and stuff that they don't have to go out and reinvent the wheel. They can just keep on producing stuff, and it's all within that company's name, and it's all transferable once you buy that company out.
Yeah, man. I mean, I did a welding procedure with my boss this year for TIG because we didn't have one prior to. So they already had two procedures before I got there. Then we had to make a TIG procedure for a specific job, and I was involved with that whole process. It's very interesting. I don't know the school side of things. Like even when I listen to your podcast and I hear you guys talking all the technical stuff, I don't really totally understand the technical stuff. But when I do that and then it burns through, I'm like, okay, I understand what that is then. But in terms of like the paperwork stuff, when he was talking about, deposition rate and blah, 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 I know what deposition rate looks like.
Yeah.
I don't know like the specifics of it. But what I find interesting too is we do a lot of Schedule 10, almost all Schedule 10. Very rarely do we do Schedule 40. And I find it interesting, the same procedure qualifies you for Schedule 10 all the way up to something really high, like really thick. Because in my opinion, everyone wants to talk about the thick stuff. And well, I think the thin stuff, at least with RMD, and I don't know about STT, but I'm assuming they're similar enough. It's pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Like STTing a Schedule 10, and in my welding procedure, I have a pulsed cap. It's two passes on a Schedule 10 2-inch pipe. That's a tall ask for sure.
Yeah. And like once you start getting that's the thing about, like thicker material, like everybody, they brag because they can weld on thicker material, which is great. But I mean, it's really hard to screw up because thicker material is going to take a lot more heat. You can slow down quite a bit. It gives you time to think. I mean, at that point, you're pretty much on autopilot. When you start talking like larger diameters and thicker material, you're on autopilot. Essentially, you're almost welding flat. But once you start getting into like thin gauge material, then you're blowing holes and everything because it can't take that heat. So you've got to move a lot faster. You don't have time to think. You just have to react. The whole time.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like, the way I look at thick stuff is you have so many passes in between that you can make look ugly. You know what I mean? If you twitch or whatever, your bevel can be thick. So if you twitch, is no big deal. If I'm on a Schedule 10 pipe, and I'm welding MIG in particular, TIG, I find, you can really control that heat, especially I have the variable on the torch. You can control it and kind of take your time with it. But yeah, when I'm running MIG, it's quick. And if it wants to blow through, no matter STT, RMD, because that's the selling is that, if it tries to blow through it, it'll cool itself down.
Not
I
always.
mean, when it comes to Schedule 10, it doesn't read that.
Yeah.
If you sit there, if you're too high on the pipe, too low, like the settings I find are different for me on Sched 10, in position, out of position for sure. Way different.
Oh yeah. You got different travel speeds and work angles and stuff you're going off of once you start, getting into different positions.
Yeah. Like this is my baseline. When I'm teaching a guy from a guy who taught himself, this is what I always tell him. Crank it, get a piece of scrap, of course. Crank it really high. See what happens. Crank it really low. See what happens. Okay, now I know what it looks like when it's really low, and now I know what it looks like really high. So then you slowly go up from the cold, slowly go down from the hot, and eventually you'll find a spot where, okay, it's looking like the YouTube video.
Yeah.
That's the self-teaching method I've used from the beginning, any process.
That's one of the things that I learned from Bob Moffett, and I thought was really cool because like when you go to teach students something and you explain a setting, you say, okay, if you turn it up, it does this. If you turn it down, it does this. Like when Bob demos a machine or he tries it out, he's like, oh, let's see if this function works. He'll max it out one way and then do a weld. And then he'll put it in the middle and then run it like that. And then, max it all the way down, run it. So now you can see what this variable actually controls. And then you can go through and fine tune everything. So
yeah, exactly.
That's a great way to do it.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like teaching, like personally, I love teaching. Like when I teaching myself, when I get a guy in there and I see I think of me, where I wish I had a guy like me to teach him, and the thing with me where I feel a little bit guilty is like, am I teaching him the right thing? Because, I've never really had someone to take it from. But then I realized, everyone does it their own way. Everyone's got their own little thing. That's what's special about it.
That's the cool thing about welding is weld's almost like a fingerprint. There's no two that are alike. There's a lot of times I can scroll through Instagram and say, before I even look at who posted it, I can say that's so and so's weld, or that's this person's weld. And there's a lot of people that have been called out for that, for like stealing other people's work and trying to pass it off as their own. Like the entire community is like, no, that's so and so's weld because like that's his technique. That's how he does it. You can see it right off the rip,
Oh yeah, that's a signature, man. Like,
especially with
this
TIG
guy's.
welding.
Oh yeah, like it's a signature for sure. Like, you, to me, I mean, to you, an experienced eye, it's obvious. You could see exactly just the tweaks and everything. And my prof in school, like when I got into the class, I remember sitting down and he's like, "So who's here to actually make a career out of this?" And I saw like three of our hands go up because I guess it was like a night program and it was more of like a hobbyist program, but it was all I could really like. It's all I wanted to spend the money on at the time. I didn't really want to go into like a private school because I didn't know enough. I didn't know. I remember going to look at a private school and I was like, wow, this looks crazy. And this before I even looked at anything on Instagram. And then, yeah, when I heard him say, is anyone here seriously, basically, and not everyone put their hands up, I'm like, okay, this is it. This is already a bad
Yeah,
sign.
okay, I'm not in the right class.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing you got to be
But yeah,
careful too. Is like when you walk into those facilities and it's nice and clean and well kept and everything. It's like, okay, everything looks good. How's the curriculum? Because I've seen a lot of schools that, I mean, they're like, it's a flagship. It's like a showpiece, and you go in there, but like the instructors have no idea what they're doing. They got top of the line equipment because they've got a lot of grant money, and they're not running the program. They're trying to teach from an office chair, and it's not working. And then you go to some like shithole, that's been there for forever, and they've got machines from like the 80s, and these kids are like kicking ass and taking names because it's the instructor that makes the biggest difference. Like you can have top of the line equipment, all brand new out of the box, everything all set up, beautiful shop, rotators and everything. But if you don't have an instructor that actually cares or knows what they're doing, you're not going to be able to provide a quality education.
yeah, man, I couldn't agree more because when we get these younger guys than me in there, and I'm trying to teach them, two of them came out of school and like good schools and or what quote unquote good schools, and they're helpers, so I hand them a grinder, and the amount of guys that don't know how to use a grinder and they
Yeah.
just have hood time. I mean, all I can say to anyone teaching welding is grinder. Teach them how to use that safely, properly, how to change discs, how to make sure the disc doesn't bind too tight, like all these little things with a grinder. That be a surgeon with that thing, you know.
That's the thing with it. Like people underestimate the grinder so much. And it's like the grinder is what made me the welder I am today. I got really good at grinding because I screwed up a lot of freaking welds and, put stuff in the wrong place, looking at the blue, trying to read, learn how to read blueprints and welding shit in the wrong spot and having to cut it back out. Like you get pretty good with a grinder. I mean, like you want to get to a level of precision. You want to be surgical with that thing. And you're right. Grinding is a huge skill set. And I found that out as as I got into education and started teaching people. Again, you don't know what you don't know, and you really don't know what somebody else doesn't know. So like here, take this grinder, go over there and clean that up, and like they have no idea how to operate it. It's like, oh shit, okay, I can't take that for granted. I got to build that into the curriculum. So we did like the whole grinder safety
Amazing.
thing. Yeah, like that the video that I did with weld.com, that grinder safety video, it's like 45 minutes, but that is the class that I would always teach to my students. And we just turned it into a video. But then, now that we got all the safety stuff out of the way, now here's how you actually use it. Here's how to grind. Here's how to use the cutoff wheel. Here's how we blend. Here's how we shape. There's different applications for that grinder because shit, there's 100 different types of wheels you can put on the end of that thing. And each wheel, there's a different technique to utilize it.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like, just being able to, know where it's going to kick, and I call them no go and no go zones
Yeah.
on a grinder. They're huge. Like how many times I've seen guys, they're cutting it fine, and then they get to the point where the pipe's going to, bite, and they're in a no go, and I'm like, man, you're going to take your leg off with
Yeah.
that thing. People portray a grinder as a sloppy tool. A grinder is not, and then a Dremel is like a surgical tool. A grinder is an efficient Dremel if you're good at it.
Yeah. In the hands
You
of
know,
the right operator. Yeah.
yeah, you can be. I mean, you can do some cool stuff, and then you see these artistic guys with grinders, and they'll do some crazy stuff too. So it just proves that, I've been wanting to make these stickers because it's like a joke of mine again with these guys on Instagram where it's like real welders use grinders,
Yeah.
because all the guys, previously I found they're always chirping, at least from my experience, oh, why are you using the grinder? Your weld must not be good. And it's like, especially MIG, I find, because you don't have as much control, right? Because that wire's just feeding out of there. The profile that you make with the grinder, because I do all hand bevels too. So anything I do with the grinder, that portrays my weld. If I have a bad bevel, my sides aren't going to be even. They're going to go with where that bevel is.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, learning how to use a grinder is a huge skill set to be able to have, and like you said, especially when you're prepping stuff out, or like even when you start welding, like once especially if you're working on a rotator, there's a point you should technically stop and then kind of blend, your start point. That way you can tie in, where you're gonna, terminate your weld at. That way you don't have that cold lap over there. You don't have that high spot in there. Everything is the same profile all the way around.
Yeah, I find that's huge with RMD roots. Like if I don't feather out my stop start, even like I go pretty far back, half inch sometimes, just to make sure when I pull through there, it's hot enough that I'm gonna flow through there nice. Because sometimes if you don't do that and you start too high, you'll get a cold lap in there or you get lack of fusion on the inside, and it's rough to fix if it's way down in a pipe.
Yeah. So what are some of the cool tricks that you've learned, kind of on your own going through as far as like fit up and production and prep and everything?
Oh man, I mean, production wise, I mean, it's simple stuff, but it's not simple if you don't know it. Like cutting everything, all at once for your drawing, even coming up with cut lists and everything like that. Being organized on the page, because what we on the drawings that I work on, we get spit out, all the cut lengths from CAD and everything like that. But I've kind of learned not to trust them because they, just the way we do it, because we're a new shop, they're sometimes they're not right, and I've had to refix things, and yeah, just going through the list and redoing all the math and cutting everything, having everything organized, getting to your positioner or whatever in position, and especially if you're doing something in a rotator, for me, you got to do it systematically so you have the least amount of in-position welds. I know it's like the least cool thing to say to like any like bro welder, but like you want to be strategic in terms of productivity. I could have a piece that could have 2 in-position welds if I do it smart, or could have 5
Yeah.
if I don't do it smart. So it's stuff like that. It's hard to like give it in like a tip, but it's just what I tell the guys is, with welding, you always have to be on. Like there's no, you show up at 6 a.m. and you're tired and like whatever, you can't lay a bad weld. Then you're going to be fixing it half the day, especially if you're new, you're not looking that great,
Or you might be
so,
out the door.
yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're showing up, we taken a lot of guys who are, fresh out of school, and apparently, I mean, when I see your guys' schools over there, I think the opposite. I think, I see Western Welding Academy, Precision Welding Academy. I think those guys are so creative. And I see the kids coming out of there and they're insane.
Oh yeah,
And
especially
I'm
with
constantly
precision, dude. The,
comparing.
the kids coming out of Scott's program are insane. But and he's got all those simulators and shit that are out back. So I
Oh,
mean,
sick.
he's got more stuff coming too. He's building some more simulators. But I thought it's really cool to watch him like take a completely different spin on welding education.
Dude, that's if you show up to a job site from that, what are you scared of?
Yeah, because I mean
You're
they
doing the
have some.
hardest.
Yeah, they have a little bit of on the job experience. That was one thing when I went through welding school in the Marine Corps. I was like, hey, like, or even like when I was in high school, I was like, hey, like, give me an applique. What am I going to be doing with this? It's awesome that I can weld, 4-inch coupons and 6-inch T joints and, groove welds and open root. This is all well and good, but what am I going to be welding on? Like, give me a real world application. They're like, oh, well, we can't, we don't know what you're going to be welding on. But like Scott, he's like, okay, I've got pipeline simulators for these guys. I've got a water wall rack, easy for you to say, for these guys. I've got a structural platform for these guys, it's like whatever, or like, limited access boxes or confined space entries. He's got all this stuff set up that kind of gives them a general idea. Like, here's the tools, here's the type of environment, here's the work area that I'm going to be in. I mean, he's got a freaking trench dug behind his school, with pipe in there, and they're in there doing freaking bell holes and tie-ins and all kinds of shit, I mean, it's really cool to see that.
Well, it's the same thing that I was saying about like when you're setting your welder. I, Before you even get in the shop, you can watch the YouTube videos and at least know what you're getting yourself into. It's the same thing with that. On site, I'm sure it's going to be more stressful because this pipe is real.
Yeah.
But at least you've been there before. That's what I think so rad. I think it's so cool what he's doing there. It's crazy. I'd love to just go in there and play.
That's the one thing. Like, I've been to Texas like 10 freaking times since he opened his school, and I never get a chance to go out to where he's at because it's always like fly in, do the event or the show or whatever's going on, and then fly right back out because I think he's about an hour away from Houston, about 45 minutes to an hour. But I never have like a gap on my schedule to be out there. Like, I'd love to go out there and spend a day with him and his students and like just check everything out, see it in person. It's really cool what he's got set up over there.
Yeah, man. And the teaching aspect of it, like that's like, I got a couple goals. I started with I wanted to be on-site welding pipe. That's what I started at, and I'm pretty close. I'm committed to the guys I'm with right now because they threw me a huge bone, and I appreciate anyone who throws me a bone. I'm loyal to you if you throw me a bone, and they've given me this opportunity to teach myself how to do these things, and and I'm getting paid to teach myself how to do these things, not going to school and spending money. I mean, I would be a lot quicker in my learning curve if I went to school, but yeah, so I'm almost there, but teaching, that's one I didn't even consider, it was like, whatever, I'll never be good enough kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I always compare myself to everyone, and I always think I'm the worst in the shop, and that's what keeps me good. I think, that's what keeps. I feel like if you think you're already really good, like where's there to go from there?
Yeah, you're not ready yet. You're not as good as you think you are most of the time.
Yeah, and you're never going to improve because like, oh, I'm already that good. Like, why would I need to improve?
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to go back and talk about like when you were talking about like developing a cut list, because that's huge for people that are getting into this industry. Like when when you have a project, you get a set of blueprints. That's the first thing that you want to do is go through it, because 9 times out of 10, or a lot of times, what's on the print isn't correct, and you're going to find those mistakes when you start cutting up material and putting things together and verifying that everything's correct. And like, everybody wants to get to the welding, which is great. Like, I love the welding aspect of it too, but 80% is your prep, cutting it, fitting it, fabricating, make sure everything's going to go together, make sure all your bevels are prepped, whatever has to take place. And you got to get really intimate with a lot of these projects. There's times that, I would take prints home and, I'd sit there after work, grab a beer and just sit down and like look at the blueprints. Okay, here's what I'm going to do tomorrow. And this was just to make me better. It wasn't something that my employer required me to do. I was always under, like, I always had a plan. You develop a plan and then you work the plan. So I would take prints home. Okay, tomorrow, I'm going to cut all this material out. Here's the order that I'm going to cut it out in. Here's how I'm going to, like, how am I going to orient the saw to where I can make this double miter cut with, the limited, capabilities that I have, or how am I going to do this? And you just start working through that whole process. And then, like you said, you show up at 6 o'clock ready to rock, in the morning, and you've got to be on. You've got to be on point. So, like, you grab your materials, you walk over to the saw, you start cutting things out. You grab the grinder, while this is cutting, you're prepping this end, and then you're starting to, stack everything together according to the blueprints. And then you realize, oh shit, there's a mistake here. There's a piece missing, or, they didn't, mark this on, or this isn't going to work. Then, okay, call the engineer. But there's a lot of work that goes into it prior to the welding. Like, the welding's the best part. Everybody loves the welding part. And I see students all the time. You give them a fabrication project and they get it all tacked up and they weld it all out. And it's like, it's warped because you didn't have a plan. Your pieces are backwards. This hole is supposed to go over there. This hole shouldn't be here. It should be over in this spot. Like, because you got so excited about the welding part that, you didn't put it together correctly. That's what really matters. It doesn't matter how beautiful the welds are at the end of the day. Is the component or the part, is it correct? Is it going to fit? Are we going to be able to place this in service? The welds may not be that great, but they're passable. Or I've got something that I can't use, but damn, these are some Instagram quality welds.
Yeah, 100%.
But we got.
I've definitely done that one.
We got to scrap the whole thing because you get too excited. You want to do the welding, but it's like you got to prep everything out before you weld it, and you got to get it right.
Well, that makes your weld nice.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're not prepping it, that's the, you know, the other problem I have with the schools. The kids I've seen come out of schools, like they can never get through their head that they're not going to be welding all day. Not all of them, but there's some kids that have came in the shop and they're like, "Oh, you know, I didn't think I'd be doing this."
Yeah. I just brought
And
a
it's
hood.
like, man, like, yeah, and that's all they were taught. You know, it's not even their fault. You know, because they're like, "Oh, I don't know how to use a grinder." We were handed, you know, I just had to tack up a fillet weld or tack up this really quick, and I didn't care if it was level. And you know what I mean? And then they get in a shop and, you know, forget the welding. You know, my prof, another good thing he said to me was, welding's the sexy part. He was like, welding's the part that everyone likes to show off, everyone likes to talk about, whatever. He's like, but in order to get a good weld, you know, you got to do all of these things before you get there.
Yeah, the fit up is definitely key, and it's not the fun part, but you know, it's a necessary evil. And I think a lot of places do their students a disservice, you know, because they'll buy pre-cut coupons, or you know, the instructors will be out there cutting everything up and processing it. And that's I was guilty of that, man. When I first started out as an instructor, I was like, oh shit, they need stuff to weld on. Like, so I ordered material before class started, and then I'm in the shop, you know, picking up the material and getting everything cut up. And you know, same thing with we had projects that I would do for plasma cutting, so I'd order in a 4 foot by 8 foot sheet, and I'd cut it all like manually because we only had a
Right.
plasma cutter or oxy fuel torch. I'd cut everything manually into 12 by 12 squares because we'd make projects out of that. And then I got to a point, I'm like, why the hell am I doing all this work? Like, once they get out in the field, nobody's going to hand them, "Oh, here's all your perfect parts that are, you know, pre-cut and pre-cleaned and everything for you." I was like, screw that. Cool. Day one. All right, guys, you know, here's safety. Now we got to go out in the shop. We're going to learn how to weld. But before we do that, we got to cut up the material we're going to use. So here's how you use the iron worker. Here's how you use a saw. Here's how you use a track torch. Here's how we, you know, bevel things out. And I just started making them do the work, just because it makes them it makes them more well-rounded. And a lot of people are like, yeah, you got to get all the welding time in. You got to give them as much welding time as you can, you know, because that's the most technical part. Yeah, you're correct. But they're never going to get to the welding part if they don't know how to operate the drill press, if they don't know how to run a hole punch, if they can't run an iron worker or a sheet metal shear or a brake or any of these tools. Like, they need to know how to use this. So it's just as important as the welding, because if they can't cut, fit, and fabricate, they're never going to get to the weld. They're
Well,
going to be out the door.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, what separates the guys who are really in it and the guys that aren't is all the things that make the guys who aren't mad the other guys like.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if I have to solve a problem, totally cool with it. That's like, you know, I like that. If I'm not solving problems, and like you said, you know, welding something thick and I'm just mindless sitting there, like my day's going by so slow, you know, no matter what I'm listening to, no matter what I'm doing, you know. But if I have something to really stimulate me and solve the problem, you know, that's what really makes me progress. And I feel like a lot of these guys who are up there, you know, if you hand them something that would frustrate another guy, they don't care. They're like, all right, like, you know, solution, you know. And that's what I live by. Like, you know, there's no problems, there's solutions.
Yeah.
You know,
That's what I used to tell my students. They're like, I've got a problem. I was like, no, you don't. They're like, yeah, I got a problem. I was like, no. You just haven't come up with a solution yet. You don't have a problem. You just don't have the solution. So let's sit down. Explain to me what you're going through, and we're going to find a solution for it. You won't have a problem anymore. And I used to love, like, troubleshooting out in the field. You run into something that's not working, and you got to figure out a way around that. You've got to come up with something, you know, on the spot, because you can't just be like, oh, well, you know, we're hitting a hollow spot in the concrete. We got to pack up all our tools and go home. No, the shit's still got to go in there. You still have to get this work done. Like, let's figure it out. There's a solution. There's a way around this. Let's sit down and figure it out. And sometimes it happens pretty quick, and sometimes, you know, it takes a while. But eventually, I mean, that's the fun part. That's what makes the job suck a little bit less, is, you know, now I got to start, you know, thinking. I got to get really creative with this stuff.
Yeah, that's welding to me, you know. Like, I mean, the fab part is the welding, you know. Without the fab, you're not welding, you know. And if you're in my experience, if you're in one of these companies where they're just handing you stuff, you're a number. You are a number. You're there, you got arms, you know, and that's all you're there for, you know. And I worked in a company, you know, I worked in a structural company that's been around for a long time. And when I got in there, I thought, oh, I'm a young guy. And I was so excited when I got the job, because it was my first job where I needed to get a ticket. Like, you know, I was so stoked. And I get in there and I realized that there's nowhere to go from here. I'm going to be laying fillet welds or like, super gapped butt joints with backing plates on them and whatever forever. And you see the guys in those shops and it's rough to say, but you see the guys in those shops and you're like, I get why you've been here for 20 years because everything makes you mad. Like and it's crazy, and that's what's cool about a lot of the young guys. I feel like a lot of these guys are stoked. Like I found my skateboarding mentality really transitioned into my welding because it's like you go for a trick, can't land it. It's the same with welding. I go lay weld, looks like garbage, and you get that one that looks good, and you're like, okay, I remember how to do that. And stick that in your head, and that's what's huge. And some of the talent coming out now is huge. I mean, I guess you don't see the other like the guys who aren't making it. So
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. This segment of the Arc Junkies podcast is brought to you by O2 Armor, slayers of the black boogers. Think about all the crap you're breathing in around your shop. Grinding dust, weld fumes, and a whole host of other debris. Block out all that crap with O2 Armor. They filtered particulate down to 2.5 micron. You can get your O2 Armor filters today at O2Armor.com and save 10% when you use Arc Junkies 10 at checkout. You can either breathe it in or block it with O2 Armor. We're also brought to you by Strong Hand Tools, makers of my favorite fabrication and tooling. Educators, do you want to get your hands on some Strong Hand tools? The answer to that question is yes. Yes, you do. Do yourself a favor and go to stronghandtools.com/ArcJunkies and sign up for their discount program and get a free set of tools for your school. That's stronghandtools.com/ArcJunkies. We're also brought to you by Everlast Welders. They make machines and plasma cutters for every budget and skill level. Everlast is the perfect choice for your home shop or small business. And all IGBT inverters come with a 5-year warranty. Head on over to everlastwelders.com today and see which machine is right for you. I personally run the 255 EXT for all my AC and DC TIG operations and the Cyclone 200E for all my solid wire MIG. It's a great combo. And if you buy any machine that comes with a stock foot pedal, be sure to get that free Nova foot pedal and TIG Torch upgrade by using Arc Junkies in the comment section at checkout, or just click in the show notes. Everlast Welders. Weld mean, weld green. Now let's get back to the show. That's one thing, like I've worked in both types of shops. I worked at a shop one time where like one person, he was responsible for like cutting all the like square tube and like the pipe and the I-beams and all that stuff. And then one other guy his responsibility was all to make all the plates and the gussets and the base plates and the, everything, the knife plates, like everything that had to go into it, he would cut all that out. And then you got somebody else that's like punching all the holes for, angle irons and, kickers and like all this other stuff. And then you got the fab team over here and all they're doing is tacking everything together, and it just kind of flows through a shop. And that makes sense because you're not hiring a welder to hang out on an iron worker all day and, shear plates and punch holes and stuff. You're just hiring a guy. We did that. Like I worked that company I was working for. I was like, oh yeah, I need another base plate. I'll just run over there and do it. And they're like, no, Roy has to cut that out. And I was like, what? And it's like, that's Roy's job. You have to wait till, he gets done on break and then he'll cut that plate. And I was like, but I need that plate now. And I know how to use the machine. Nope. That's Roy's. That's all he does for this company. You tell him what you need and he'll make it happen. And Roy was damn good, but like you couldn't touch his machine. You couldn't even turn it on for him. I kind of like that. I mean, like you get to see, different aspects of it. And then, I kind of got familiar with how to do it just by watching him. So when I went to the next job where it was my responsibility, to do this work, because I didn't have somebody cutting my pieces. I didn't have somebody prepping my stuff. I had to go out there and, use the saw and then, take material over to the iron worker, shear it, cut it, punch it, whatever. Take something over to the tube bender, roll it and bend it myself. Like you learn how to do all of that. And that's one thing that I tell people that are getting into welding. Like, you're not just going to be welding. Like, learn all this other stuff. You get to a shop, especially the companies that are like, hey, we want to cross train you. Well, hell, like I'm a welder. I don't want to learn how to do anything else. No, don't be that narrow minded. Like if you get into a company and they've got like a CNC shop on one side, a welding shop on another, and a forming area in another section of the shop, learn that stuff, man, because you're going to be that much more valuable. Because when that CNC operator doesn't show up for the day and you're there, guess what? You can go over there and step in and you can make that stuff work. You can keep that shop up and going and you become that much more valuable for the employer. And then you get some negotiating power. You're like, hey, like I can do all of this stuff. I'm here every day. Like, you can justify asking for a raise.
Yeah, 100%.
Or the overtime.
And don't get me wrong. Yeah. And don't get me wrong. Like, working in that shop, the hood time I got there was invaluable. That was right when I needed that hood time. And it's just the only thing with something like that is it's not going to keep a guy like me around for a long time. I worked there for about 8 or 9 months. I learned everything I could, which was, just 8 or 9 months of straight hood time, which was great for me. And it was like, old, like, use the flip mask
up.
and that style. And in my opinion, I heard you the other day on a podcast or someone on your podcast talking about hoods. I think it was Scott, and they all have crazy hoods now and whatever. In the skateboarding world, again, bringing it back here, if you ever see the colored grip tape,
Yeah.
I never thought I could get colored grip tape until I was good. If no one told me that, it was just like it was a status that if I'm not good, why am I making this thing look cool?
Yeah.
And that's the same, the same kind of thing I have when I see like, new guys with like a pancake on. And I'm like, okay, like, see, I don't even have a pancake because I'm like, I haven't earned a pancake. I'm not doing this. I'm like, I'm not there yet. I want a pancake real bad, but I'm not there yet. And that's just me personally. But I'm always giving myself little goals. And those little goals are everything. Even something dumb like that.
So how do you decide when you're good enough to earn something? Be like, all right, now I got it. Now I can go out and spring for a pancake hood.
It's like if I showed up on site and saw guys with one, I'm like, okay, these guys are using these things and it's functional, and I know they do actually have a function, so it's like,
Oh, they're freaking great for working outside. Like if you've ever worked outside and you catch that sun in the back, the back of your hood, like you can't see shit. But like because I always wondered, I was like, why the hell are they wearing that? But I mean, it folds right to it conforms to your face. Because I got one from Outlaw a while back. And then I realized that, you have to you sand your facial imprint into this. And I watched a dude, I think Austin Ross, or what, it might be Austin Ross, I think, on YouTube. He does like a whole tutorial on like, here's how you sand out your pancake hood. And I was like, oh, okay. So like I got it all formed and fit up to my face and everything, but it works great for outside.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because it's just that little box conforms right there. It's
right.
like balsa wood. And it doesn't let any light in. And that's the one thing, like, as you're going through and sanding everything down and making it fit, you take a flashlight and shine it, all over, your face while you're wearing it. And you're like, okay, I see light coming in here. So I gotta sand this side down a little bit more. And you don't want to use like aggressive sandpaper either. You want to use like
something that's gonna be
like
nice
a 120 face. Or something like that. Well, no, because you can take too much off too quick, and then you got to reshape everything because now you got a hole in it because you sanded one side way too much. So just like a little bit here, a little bit there, and a little bit goes a long way with that stuff.
Yeah, see, that's exactly what I mean. If I bought a pancake and I was welding in my shop, I'd be welding with all the gaps. There's no way I'd know. But if I was on site and guys were wearing them, I'd know how to properly wear the thing. That's my little nichey thing, but it's always been that way, and I mean, really going into hoods, I got the 9100 FX, like 3M hood, and I mean, it's great for what I do, but I could see situations where it's not great. Like getting into a tight spot with that thing, you got a spacesuit on. Like you're really like it's for like high production welding, and it's great. I love it. It's there's nothing really uncomfortable about it. It's so well engineered. But a buddy of mine in the shop has an Outlaw hood, and I throw that thing on, and I'm like, wow, this thing is light.
Yeah.
Like you're wearing nothing.
That you got to check out the Speed Glass G501. If you get a new papper system. And I thought it was really cool that you do wear a papper system because a lot of people, they don't, and if you're in a high production shop, especially with stainless steel, because as most people know, stainless steel has hexavalent chromium in it, which has been linked to cancer of every major organ in your body. So if you're working with a lot of stainless, grinding, polishing, cutting, welding, get a papper system or get at the source fume extraction. But the papper systems are freaking awesome. Because you can throw that thing on. It's like a little air conditioner on the inside of that hood. You're breathing in fresh, clean air the whole time. But yeah, that G501 from Speed Glass, it's got the new like color changing capability. So you can like program what color you want the arc to be. And like, it's just insane. I haven't had a chance to use one. I got the G502, but it doesn't have that option in it. And it's really
you can
light
even
hood.
change the direction of the air and all that crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Like all I could say also to young guys is protect your lungs. It is not cool to not wear a respirator.
Yeah.
Like that's another thing that was a thing when I'd go into shops and I'd be wearing a respirator all day. I don't care. 30 degrees out, I'm wearing a respirator. And guys would look at me and, come up with some weird thing where it's like, yeah, that actually puts strain on your lungs and all this stuff. And I'm like, you're telling me that's worse than me inhaling these fumes. I'm in a dust cloud in here, and so yeah, I mean, that's a huge thing for me is constantly protecting my lungs. I'm trying to be in this industry for a while.
Exactly. Well, and it's not so much strain on your lungs, it's strain on your heart, because like when I had to go through when I had to get fit tested and everything for a respirator, we had to go through and do like respirator training, but you got to do what the hell do they call it? Pulmonary function test. So basically you have to blow through this unrestricted tube to see if you have the lung capacity and all that stuff to wear a respirator. But yeah, it does tax you, like it puts an additional load on your system. However, you're not breathing all that shit in. And it wasn't until, I was working for the theme parks that they were like, hey, if you're doing anything related to stainless, you got to wear a respirator. And I was like, why? We never had to do one. We never had to wear it in the past. What have you guys found out that, you're trying to protect us from? And they're like, oh, nothing. Just, anytime you do stainless, you have to wear a respirator. I was like, okay. It's just company mandate. All right. It wasn't until I started doing some research. I was like, oh shit, this is some nasty stuff that I've been breathing in and had no clue, because you don't know what you don't know, and nobody ever told me that it's bad. I was like, okay, I don't see smoke and fumes, so it's fine. Like I can, no worries. I mean, you can smell when somebody's welding stainless. But yeah, and respirator, and PAPR system. I mean, that's like the best thing for it. If you're gonna be working with that stuff, especially like long term, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, put a respirator on, put a PAPR system on, get at the source fume extraction, something.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like. And it's more of, I feel like for me, it was these guys wouldn't wear it because it was like a swag thing. I'd love to change that whole thing because I think it's crazy. It's not like skateboarding without a helmet. It's totally different. You're talking about killing yourself. Like it's a serious thing, and all protective stuff. I wear all PPE. It's no joke. Like guys, even me, like I don't grind with just the glasses on. I wear the face shield, everything, because I actually had a flake in my, I didn't have to get it grinded out, but you learn from that moment, and you don't want to have to learn from that moment. Just do the right things from the beginning. People do it for a reason.
And the funny thing was, like, I didn't start becoming like really big into safety until I started teaching. And it's because like I knew like I've got a lot of bad habits that I need to break, because I know that this isn't my methods don't conform to the Z49 Z49.1 of for safety and welding. So I was like, and if I'm going to teach these students to go out in the industry, I have to tell them, what they need to be able to protect themselves from, because just like me, when I was coming up through the industry, nobody told me. Like, we would work at heights without a harness, unless OSHA was in the area or, something, that we just make it look like we're wearing a harness. We put the harness on, but there's no lanyard. Or you put the lanyard on and it's just dragging around on the ground behind you, which is even worse. Or wearing a welding jacket when you're welding, or sleeves or something to protect your skin from the UV rays. Like, I was never taught this stuff growing up, and it wasn't until I got into teaching that I started learning this stuff. And I was like, oh damn, like I've been beating the shit out of my body for the past several years. Maybe I should put the safety glasses and a face shield on when I'm grinding, or use tinted lenses when I'm cutting, because like you're out there in the field.
Yeah.
You might have safety glasses on, or you might have, a pair of sunglasses on from the truck, and you're out there oxy-fuel cutting all day. Well, you can actually get arc flash from doing that. A lot of people don't realize that. That's why you need to use like an infrared shade 5 when you're oxy-fuel cutting or plasma cutting. Just because your eyes can tolerate it at the time doesn't mean you're not doing damage. So, respirators, safety glasses, wearing task-specific gloves, welding jackets. Like, I did a whole Just the Tip Tuesday. I think it was like 2 episodes on, wearing proper PPE, because like you don't want to end up a statistic.
No, yeah, and it's like very common. It's not like it's a fluke thing. In welding, there's all sorts of things that are trying to kill you.
Yeah.
And it's and I think because these guys are coming out of these good schools, and even the non-good ones, safety is always there, because even the non-good ones are worried about their liability.
Yeah.
So everyone's really on point with the safety when they come out of a school. But I think I was kind of at the end of, or at least the way my career went, of learning from guys in the shop. And you'd look weird if you're wearing the respirator, to everyone else. Why are you wearing that thing? because I'm trying to protect my lungs, and even when I see guys plasming without a jacket on, I think that's crazy too. I don't know if it's my skin that I get sunburns easily, or I don't have the leather yet on my skin in order to get it, but I get sunburns, if I'm plasming. And funny story from that first shop I was at, it was in the middle of summer when I got hired. And a week in, I'm like, why are all these guys wearing jackets? I'm like, you should be in a tank top. It's so hot in here. So I walk in the shop in a tank top, and all the guys are kind of laughing at me. And I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? You guys are the idiots. It's hot in here. And they're like, you're gonna learn tomorrow. You're gonna learn tomorrow. So they let me weld the whole day.
Oh, geez.
Let me
That was nice
MIG
of 'em.
weld a whole day. Yeah. Because this was one of those shops where, like, the guys were heating up bolts and tossing. Hey man, catch this tool, and tossing it across the shop, and you're catching it in your glove, or filling your gloves full of tip dip. It was just a shop full of young guys, so everyone's messing with each other, not safe stuff, But I came in the next day and I had a wicked sunburn, and I was like, never forgot to put on my jacket again.
Yeah, never again. That's the same thing. Like going back to plasma cutting, a lot of folks don't realize when you cut that stuff, it releases ozone. So and like anybody that's ever cut with plasma, it generates a lot of freaking smoke, and that's why a lot of CNC plasma tables, they have water underneath. A, because it prevents the part from warping, but B, it also captures all that fume in the water. And that particulate sinks. So like when you're cutting, plasma cutting, you should be, using like a downdraft table, or have at the source fume extraction, or a fan or something, like sucking and blowing all that shit out of there, or PAPR system or respirator, because like it's some nasty stuff when you breathe it in. Not only, do you have heavy metal exposure, but just like, the ozone that's created through plasma cutting, which also not good to breathe in.
Yeah. I mean, all that stuff, and I'm glad we're talking about safety stuff, because it's a huge deal. It's no joke, and guys forget about it all the time. And I've been privileged enough now to be in, this new shop where, we're setting the standard for the safety. There's no guy who doesn't think it's cool. It's you got to wear this stuff, whether you like it or not. Right. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, going back to teaching myself, this is also something I taught myself, and it doesn't always take someone else to tell you something to think of it. In anything, welding, anything, you should always be applying yourself to the situation you're in, whether it's welding, and should I go ask my superior, or if I do this myself, is he going to be like, wow, that was impressive that he figured that out? I like being that guy. That's something that if I see a young guy and he comes over to me and he did something that I'm like, wow, you did that yourself. I'm like, you're going to be worth some money one day. And that's what I realized about myself was, I started teaching people, and I thought everyone was kind of like this. Like I thought everyone would go in there and teach themselves how to do things. And I started realizing not everyone's doing that. And I was like, in my head, selfishly, I'm like, I'm going to be worth money.
Well, I mean, that's a good way to look at it too. And then like, staying productive is a big thing. Like I would see people, all the time is like, that's one thing. Like it was reinforced in the military, but something I grew up with is like work ethics. And, in the military, they kind of reinforce that as, you want to be proactive. You want to, essentially, I mean, they would say, initiative, take the initiative. Like you see something's jacked up, go fix it. You see something's wrong, go fix it. If, you finish a project, like, something else that needs to be done, go ahead and start on the next one. But then you get, people that come into the welding program, and they're like, okay, I welded my coupon. And then they just sit there and wait. They wait for you to come by and give them the next step. And it's like, no, like go prep another set, or, like same thing out in the workforce. It's like, okay, I did this. And then they just wait for you to come back.
It's
and then they're playing on their cell phone. It's like, what are you doing? Well, I finished the job that you told me to do. Okay. Like the floor is dirty. Like you can sweep that up while you're waiting. Like be productive, find the initiative, take the initiative and get something done. So you're not just sitting around waiting. I mean, that looks really bad on somebody.
Yeah, that's a huge like red flag for me.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to figure something out to do, even when there's nothing to do. You can go organize the toolbox. I don't care. Grab something and do it. And especially in school, you're paying to be there. Yeah. That's what they say about any program. You're paying to be there. If you have that grinder and you're using their power, you should get grind your table flush. Yeah. Grind anything. Figure it out. And then someone's gonna walk in. They're gonna be like, "Holy man," and they're gonna remember you. quickly going to remember you and put you in that category of, I tend to, when I see certain things, you get shoved into categories in my brain. It's very hard to get out of those
Yep.
categories. Once you get over there, it's like, okay, like this is his trend. This is what I'm going to be seeing, and that's going to tell me how I'm going to, not how I'm going to treat you, but what I'm going to do for you in the future in
Yeah.
terms of like, teaching. And if I see you don't care, then,
I'm not
you
going to
can,
waste
you
my
can
time.
be on the breaker all day. It's cool. You don't care. I mean, that's fine, but stuff like that. My thing is always about A, making my day go by really fast, and B, learning. And when I learn, my day goes by fast. So it's like, it's a win-win for me.
Yeah, I get messages all the time via Instagram like, "Hey, I'm getting ready to go to welding school. Like, what's one piece of advice you could give me?" You're paying to be there. Burn every piece of rod and wire that they'll let you. Be the first one in and be the last one out. And like, you're not there to make friends. You're gonna make friends along the way. Don't get me wrong, but like, don't make that your objective to go in there and be the social butterfly, because you're not only preventing yourself from learning, but you're preventing others. I'd get those people in the program that all they wanted to do was talk about welding or talk about how good they are. They'd lay one weld down and be like, "Man, I got this stuff," and then they'd break off and start interrupting everybody else's learning. It's like, no, okay, you think you've got it? Like, work on something else, or like burn the rods, burn the wire, burn as many coupons as you can. Like, don't do it till you get it right. Do it till you can't get it wrong. That's what you got to do. And once you go into a welding program, like I said, you're not there to make friends, because once the program's over, you're going to be competing for the same jobs as everybody else. Especially if you don't want to travel, you want to stay there in that little hometown, or that area that you're in. Look around. That's your competition. Because if there's a company out there hiring and they've got like one or two positions, you don't want to be the third best welder in the class, applying for that position. You want to be number one. And if you can't be number one, you damn sure want to be number two.
Yeah, I heard you talking about the competition thing, and that's another thing that drives me is when I see someone, I got hired on at the same time as someone once, and we both walk in the shop, and I'm cool, whatever, but I look at you like you're my competition, and especially a welding program. You walk into that welding program, there's 30 kids, 40 kids, you're cool with them, whatever. Hopefully we get hired at the same shop, but I'm getting that job. I'm looking for that paycheck. And another the cool thing I've been told is that as you progress through your career, the biggest raise you're ever going to get is your starting salary. So when I go from job to job, again, a little bit of BS is fine. I'm going to say I was making a little bit more, because if I tell them what I was making, okay, we'll give them two or
Yep.
$3 more, $4
If
more.
you're lucky.
If I go, hey, yeah, if you're lucky,
Yeah.
if you really lay down a nice test pass, and you're really good at talking, but if you say, hey, I was making whatever 35, and they go, okay, well, he's not going to walk for less than 35. So it kind of starts you there. And then what are you going to get per year? Unless you're really good or in a good company, you're not jumping $5,
No.
$10,
50
and
cents,
if you're
75 cents, maybe
yeah,
a
yeah.
buck.
And if you're skilled enough, you can walk that all the way up. That's exactly what I did. I started at 16 an hour welding those fences. Now I'm doing well. And it was constantly every company, okay, this much more, this much more. And I didn't go walk into the next company and go, I want $30 more than I'm making,
Yeah.
or $20 more. It was like five, a couple bucks more. But that's and I don't like promoting bouncing around too much. Because if you get in a company and you like it and they treat you well and everything like that, stick around. They're gonna pump you full of whatever they got. But if you're in a company and you don't really like it and you're not getting treated well, but there's something to learn there, screw them. Learn everything you can from them. That's the biggest, FU you're going to give them, is learn everything you can and apply it forever.
Skill up and dip out.
Yeah, that's it, man.
That's the biggest thing is like, people don't quit jobs, they quit management. So like you said, if you find a place that's treating you well and they're paying you decent, stay, because you might be able to find a job that's going to pay you a little bit more, but they may not treat their people well. They may, like, I know there's a company here locally, they pay very well, but they're working 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, year round. And
Yep.
if you like, you're like, oh yeah, I don't want the overtime. No, that's not the overtime. That's minimum. That's what you're
Yeah.
going to be working. And
Yeah.
they're not treated all that great, but they pay really well. So they have a pretty decent turnover rate, and they've slowly started to realize that, okay, maybe our people need some time off. Maybe we should give them some more benefits. Maybe we should treat them a little bit better, and then we don't have this big attrition rate. We can start retaining people a little bit more. So I mean, that's kind of what they've done. So I guess it's a better place to work now, but like, that's the big thing is find a place where the company's going to treat you right. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pay is definitely an incentive, but you don't want to show up to work every day for a company that you hate, and a group of people that you don't like working with. I'd rather make a little bit of less money and have a good time while and enjoy waking up and going to work every day, than I would be like, man, this extra $2 or $3 an hour is awesome, but fuck, I really don't want to go into work today.
Yeah, when you're waking up and thinking of every excuse to not go to work,
Yeah.
either you don't like your job or you don't like where you're working at, and solutions, not problems. Don't just sit there and sulk in it. So many guys I've worked with at companies that have been there for 20 years and they're complaining every day. And I remember looking at them one day as like a 19-year-old kid and being like, what are you doing about it?
Yeah. Why are you still here?
Why are you still here then? And they're like, oh, they're safe. They're lifers, right? And I
Yep.
get it. You got bills, you got your stuff, but when you're young and you can have that a little bit more aggression. I remember when COVID came. So when COVID came, I was the first guy I knew to lose my job. It was when I was working at that trade show booth company, and all the trade shows got canceled in 2 days. So Monday we were working overtime, and Friday we were laid off.
Damn.
So it was instant. Yeah, but I liked the company. It was the first company I was in with cool guys and whatever. Didn't love the welding, but yeah, when COVID ended, that's when I got into this next company, the structural company, and I was making a little bit more money, but I was around those kind of guys, guys that really didn't enjoy what they were doing, or if they did, they were tired of it because they're doing it all, and then I'd tell them I'm going to leave. They'd be complaining, and I'd tell them I'm going to leave, and they'd be like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
I'm like,
You hate it here. Why would
what are you doing here?
Misery loves
Yeah,
company.
yeah.
They're like, we need you to stay here. We need people to bitch to.
Yeah, yeah. And I love seeing this scene going this way. Like seeing welding turn into this thing. And I think the Instagram community as well. Like I think I fall into the also like the ASMR. It's not always welders looking at my thing, but if a kid's looking at it and he thinks it's cool, which I've had them message me, like, hey man, this is cool. I'm thinking about getting into this. I saw your video, blah, blah, blah. Like that's more than satisfying for me. I could delete it today, and if some kids figured it out because they saw something, that's cool. And across the board, seeing precision. I think any kid that looks at precision stuff, they gotta think that's cool.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is we got to start like exposing the trades to kids at a younger age. For a long time, like they've ripped it. I don't know how it is up in Canada, but like down here, they've ripped all the trade schools or all the trade programs out of the high school level. It's like you need to bring them back to high school, and not only that, like put them into middle school. Like give people entry level stuff. Like show them how to do some of this stuff. And I think it's really cool. Like now that both my kids are in elementary school and they have like a robotics program. I think that's
cool.
freaking awesome. Like bring that stuff. I mean, it's an after hours thing, but like bring that stuff in and like start exposing the youth to these different applications, these different skilled trades. Show them how to do some of this stuff. At least get them interested and say, hey, there's plenty of options out here, and you don't have to break the bank and accumulate a lot of debt to make a good life for yourself. Like we've broken that mold. We don't need to crank people out through college anymore. Like show them the skilled trades, show them welding, show them plumbing and pipe fitting and electrical and carpentry and all this stuff. Let them build, let them work with their hands. Man, kids want to work with their hands. They want to do stuff. They get so drained down into this mundane, like go to chapter 7. Okay, read that and answer the questions in the back of the book. And it's like, nobody wants to do that shit,
Yeah, no one's learning that way.
No, and then they're like, oh, well, you're not a traditional learner, so we need to medicate you. And it's like, fuck that. Put a power tool in their hand. Let them show you. They're active. They're not, they don't have ADD or whatever. Like they need stimulation, and reading a chapter in a book is not being stimulated.
Yeah, it's stimulation, man. Like for me, I mean, I did both. I went through the school thing for programming. I didn't finish. I did my first year. In the midst of that year, I was like, man, I'm way better with my hands, and my day goes by a lot faster. And I was getting miserable. I was good at it, but I was getting miserable doing these things.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kept thinking, I'm like, wow, welding kind of, oh, it kind of sucks. You got to be exposed to all this stuff all the time, blah, blah. But I was like, you know what, my days would go by real well. And now, I love talking about it with guys who are into it. And this is the thing, is talking to you, or, you're probably the first person I've talked to who's really into it. All my buddies, they're all like, HVAC or plumbing, and that's cool. I was very close to going that route, but having a community that you can chat with about these things, it's pretty rad. And it's a skilled trade in particular, a skilled trade. If you put a TIG torch in a kid's hand when he's in grade 10, when he gets to grade 12, he could be good. That's a lot of hood time, half a year or half a semester of a school year. You could be good by the time you get out of school, and you could pass that, weld test when you get there.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing. I mean, start them off early, and
Yeah,
then grow
100%.
upon that. Like if you show them in high school, then have like a feeder program where they can get into college and learn some more of the advanced stuff. Now, okay, now that you got the fundamentals of welding, okay, cool. Now we're going to teach you, like blueprints. We're going to teach you fabrication. Here's how you do all this other stuff. Like here's where you learn, what to do with this skill set that you have. And I kind of think that's how it should go. And I mean, it's kind of back-asswards, but like learn the welding first and then learn the fabrication and all that stuff, because the welding is going to be the most, technical part that you're going to need more time with, because I can show you how to, miter a square tube on a saw, like pretty damn quick. The welding part, that's going to take a while. You're going to need hood time. You're going to have to sit there and burn a lot of rod and a lot of wire and a lot of coupons and get really good and proficient at that.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like the fitting is huge, but at the beginning, yeah, you need that initial hood time for sure. Like just how are you going to attack something if you're not comfortable with the welder? You got to know and tinker with it. Especially if you're in school, you have nothing to worry about. You know what I mean? And you're not wasting anyone's money with your time.
Nope.
You're spending money being there. So start tinkering with that thing. Like I said, go high, go low, go into the deep settings. Oh, if you mess it up, well, that's what you got your teacher for.
Yep.
He's going to come back. He'll reset you. He'll set you straight. I would do that and then get into deep holes and not know how to get out of them, because I didn't have the guy to go reset my machine. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, whatever path you take to learning, if you wanted, this is what I always tell younger guys is, and this isn't welding specific, but whatever you get into, someone's making a lot of money doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you get into, the signs you see on the side of the road, someone owns that company, and someone's making a bunch of money doing that. You're sold this. I wanted to be a doctor when I was a kid, because you're sold, oh, a doctor's cool and you make a lot of money. A lawyer's cool and you make a lot of money. And unfortunately, I feel like welding falls into that category. I really can't stand when I see these things that are like, want to be making 150,000 every year and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, unless you got your dad in it and he's going to take you out there the next day and you're going to get right into the thick of it right away, you're not making that money. You're welding fences.
Yeah. There's
you're welding fences.
That whole 6K myth. I mean, it's not necessarily a myth. There are students that, come out of a program and they can make six figures. There's schools that are pushing them out there, but you're not going to find that work in your backyard. And you
Right
really
on.
have to know somebody, or you've got to know somebody that knows somebody to get that connection, to get your foot in the door. Because a lot of these companies, they're not hiring by putting a job on at Indeed, because they don't want 30,000 resumes. They're like, hey, does anybody know somebody that's looking for a job that you can, we will onboard them this way. So it's all done through word of mouth. But like if you know somebody and you've got the skill set and you went to school every day and you put in the work and the effort, and you can show up on time every single day and put in that work and be reliable and have that skill set, there's a possibility, but you've got to be willing to travel, because that work's not going to be in your backyard. And if it is, it's not going to be in your backyard forever. There's 6 months and then it's off to the next one. So, I mean, you've got to bounce around and be able to, go out there and move and do that work. And there's a lot of sacrifice that goes along with it.
Yeah. And that's another thing with these schools that's invaluable, is that network you're involved in.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily Instagram got me into that network. Now I'm talking to people, whatever, but it took me a lot longer. If you're in one of these schools, you're paying that money, you do the work, you do what you're told, you work hard, you show up every day, you stay late and learn as much as you can, get your money's worth. And then you get put into that category in the guy's brain. And when it comes to the time the program's over, there's probably, out of, I've never taught, but out of, probably 30, 40 students, there's probably 5 or 6 that you're like, okay, like I can really vouch for these guys. And you want to be those 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And they're not average. They're not like, there's no faking that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, 100%. I would tell the students, they'd come in and be like, hey, we have job placement, as you go through the program, like we had a whole department that was like, that was their job, was dedicated to finding the students employment once they got done. Now,
Right.
as a welding instructor, like I've got my finger on the pulse of the welding community, like in the area. Like I know which companies to go work for. I know what they're looking for, which companies to avoid. And like I would tell, specific students, hey, like this would be a good job for you. This is where you should apply. And,
Cool.
the funny thing is students, like the ones that don't want to put in the work, they don't want to, put in the effort, and they just want to do the bare minimum to get by. I had one of them raise his hand one time. He's like, hey, I'm getting ready to apply for a job. Will you write me a letter of recommendation? And I was like, yes, I will write you a letter. I will write anybody in this class a letter of recommendation. Just be damn sure that when you ask me to write a letter of recommendation, that, you understand I don't write works of fiction. So I'm not
Yeah.
going to tell them how great you are, because this is the reputation of me, the reputation of my program, and the reputation of my employer when, you go out and apply for this job. So if you show up late every single day and you try to leave early and you sneak out, and you come back from lunch late, and you're not worth a shit when you come in on Mondays, and you're taking 2 to 3 days off out of a 4-day-a-week program, I'm going to put that in your letter of recommendation. And if they want to hire you after that, have at it. But I mean, like, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie for you.
Yep. Yeah, and I've realized that the welding world, all over the world, small community.
It is.
Word of mouth travels quickly, man. And never ever burn a bridge, even if you don't like the guy. There's been guys that I don't like, and I've tolerated them and been nice. Like I got no issues with you, man. You kind of suck, but I got no issues with you. And then, oh, my dad's got this job that I can get you here and whatever. And if I told that guy to, F off, it'd be that job opportunity wouldn't have happened. And it's been more than once, not welding particular, that I've gotten jobs just from, being cool with everyone. And
Yeah.
everyone's going to remember you.
Yep.
Everyone's going to be like, wow, that guy, everyone gets along with that guy.
Your reputation will precede you in this industry, 100%.
Exactly. And don't get shoved into one of those categories. Because like we were saying, it's hard to get out. It's hard. And the older a guy is, the quicker they're going to write you off, I find.
Yep.
The more experienced the guy is, he's going to write you off even quicker. And it's going to take little things, showing up late, stuff like that. Those go so far.
Yeah. And the funny thing is like a lot of these business owners, they all know each other. They're all bidding on the same work. They're drinking beer together on the weekends. They're going offshore, they're fishing, like they're hanging out, like they know each other. So when they say, oh, didn't this guy used to work for you? Yeah, he's a piece of shit. Or he's an awesome dude. If you can get him, like hire him, bring him in. You're not going to regret it. So I mean, your reputation is definitely going to precede you. So when you even when I left the company and I knew, I was like, this place is a shithole. It sucks. I'm never coming back. It was a great stepping stone. Hey man, I appreciate everything you've done for me. Here's my 2 weeks notice. I'm moving on. I could have just walked out and been like, screw it. I'm done.
Yep.
Give me my paycheck. I'm out of here. But at the end of the day, if, somebody has to call back and check that reference, or if he knows the employer that I'm going to work for next, or, hey, you know what? Sometimes the grass is only greener on the other side because it's covered in horse shit. So maybe I need to tuck my tail between my legs and go back to that company, to get me a couple more months down the road before I can find something decent. I've got to weigh back in because I left on good terms and I didn't burn a bridge.
Yeah, 100%. And like going back to, the way schools are set up, I love what the Weld Labs guys are doing, man.
Yeah.
That they were saying they go into a school, they don't even have a program. They look at what's in the area and they teach them that kind of stuff. That's the best thing you can do for someone, especially don't tell them how great STT is and they can't access a machine ever. If they're in school, like they were saying when they were on the podcast and they were on that old Lincoln machine, that old TIG machine, and all the kids are saying, why are you going to that machine? Because you got to know how to touch you got to touch everything. You got to touch, if it's in front of you, use it.
Yeah.
Use it. If you're allowed to use it, use it. If some guy you're in that shop and that guy one day wants to be nice on the breaker and he's like, hey man, like, you want to come try this? Don't be like, no, I'm a welder. learn it, man. Because then the next job you go to and you have to use a breaker, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I've used it once or twice. Stuff like that. You never really dangerous stuff. I wouldn't BS a guy on, hey, I've welded structural,
Yeah.
and get in there and, never touch structural, but learn everything you can always in any facet.
Be multifaceted.
That's oh yeah, but be well-rounded. That was my goal at the beginning. Was I want to be well-rounded in anything. If someone hands me something, I want to be able to know how to do it. And I'm getting there. It takes a long time. This is like a never-ending skill. I find, and it's so specific to this one thing. That's why I find it does well on Instagram. This is my theory. If I look at a guy who doing electrical work, a lot of it I can't tell if it's good or bad.
Yeah.
I mean, if it looks really nice and whatever, okay, cool, that's good. Welding, you don't got to be that good to know if it looks like garbage. Oh, that thing looks like garbage. Or you see a guy who's got like a perfect color on a stainless weld. My girlfriend will look at them and she'll be like, holy, like that's crazy. It doesn't take a skilled guy to know welding's good. And that's what's so cool about it.
Yeah, it's definitely a great skill set.
100%, man. 100%. It's a good thing to get into if you know what you're getting into. You know what I mean? It's not all the easy, pretty stuff you see. When you're out, the stuff people aren't showing online is the hard stuff. The stuff that no one wants to show online because it doesn't look fun.
Yeah,
it's probably not fun.
Laying in a freaking mud puddle trying to weld something out and everything, and
yeah,
poor fit up, and that's what
nobody's
showing that stuff. Nobody's showing that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, look at this shop that I did on my bench today. Like during lunch, here's 4 inches of a 6-inch fillet weld that I did, and it looks awesome.
Yeah, and they're like stoked, and they're like, and it's like, man, that's great. You keep doing that, but and I don't love the whole like downplaying a guy like for doing that, because if he's stoked genuinely, that's cool.
Yeah,
if he's like, wow, I love this is great. And then, there's always that guy, I hated when guys said it to me, where they'd be like, yeah, try that overhead.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, let me try. I'll see how best I can do. Give me some hood time. I'll get that done. But it's not what everyone makes it out to be, where like, it is very black and white, but it's not very black and white at the same time,
That's the one thing I can't stand, like on, especially with Instagram, is if somebody's using a rotator. Like everybody in the comment section wants to bag on them. And it's like, yeah, you know what? You can do that in position. You can run that whole thing out 5G or 6G. But you know what? If you've got access to technology that's going to make your life a little bit easier, to where you're not manhandling things and, having to crawl up underneath stuff, and you can work at a comfortable level for 8 hours a day, guess what? I'm going to bang out a whole lot more work. And, I'm going to let my paycheck at the end of the week offset my pride that, I didn't try to do everything the hard way and just set it up on jack stands and run everything out 5G when I could have just used a rotator. Why not? If you've got access to the technology, I'm not here to stroke my ego. I'm here to feed my family. So I'm going to use the rotator, and I'm going to crank out, twice as much work, because I'm working smarter, not harder, and I'm not beating the piss out of my body. Yeah, I'm able to do it. Do I need to do it every single day to prove a point? No.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I'm saying about, like, the welding hood that I need for the job. I'm not going to have a rotator there and be doing everything in position. The company's going to look at me like, what's this guy doing? Why is he taking so long?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got this. They paid money for that thing, and I'm going to use it as skillfully as I can use it. Yeah. And if I show some real skill on that, sure, there's imposition that comes. It's fun. I enjoy it. Sometimes I'll make things a little bit harder for myself just to give myself the knowledge. I've put stands in the way before, trying to mimic that precision stuff. Like I'll get a jack or a pipe stand, and I'll have a weld there that I know I could do pretty well, and I'll stick 2 pipe stands beside it and TIG in between the 2 pipe stands, to like, just tune that skill constantly, but yeah, I mean, if you have stuff at your disposal, if you don't use it, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. It's not all about being cool. When I get to the real imposition stuff, if I get on site and I start doing that, okay, that's where I should be doing it. I should be taking that extra time. Yep. Because that's where it's meant to be,
Yeah. So what's one piece of advice you'd give somebody that's like a self-taught welder? Maybe they can't afford to get into a school, or there's not a good school in their area that they actually, is worth attending. Like what's some piece of information you would give them if they're kind of, teach themselves how to weld?
It's one I tell everyone, never give up an opportunity, even if you think the place isn't good. if there's some welding in there that you get in that shop and you think something's cool, and maybe the pay's not great, or the guy's kind of being rude or whatever, you get in there and you try it out. You're not losing anything. So every opportunity in my life, I've had crazy jobs. I've taken every opportunity. I was a beekeeper for a summer. Every opportunity I've been given, I've taken, and it's helped me get here. And obviously, never give up if you really enjoy it. If you really enjoy it, you won't give up. Because I was really close. I couldn't find a job. This is when I was calling those union halls and they were flaking me off and whatever. And my girlfriend's dad's really big in HVAC, so close to going into HVAC, but I had all this skill already. And I was like, you know what, if I don't get a job by this date, whatever. And something fell into place and it worked out. And, some people, I say to my dad, I say, man, I got lucky. And he goes, you didn't get lucky. He's like, you grinded for this, and that's a huge piece of advice I could give, is just take every opportunity you can, no matter what it is, anything,
No, that's really good. Well, hell, before we get out of here, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you? I know you're on Instagram, but go ahead and plug that. I don't know if you do the TikTok or anything, but yeah, feel free to plug any of that.
Yeah, Instagram, man, Strikecore Welding. This is me. I don't really talk much on there, so this is the first bit of me you're gonna see. This is a lot of my ethics were discussed in here, so apply them the best you will. And if this helps someone, figure their situation out, that's sick, man. I wish everyone the best. Fucking grind,
That's a great attitude, man. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on the show and kind of share your experience, your background, and your welding journey.
100%, man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. Be sure to tune in every Monday for new episodes of the Arc Junkies podcast, and the first Wednesday of every month for new episodes of Weld Wednesdays with AWS. Please give the show a review on Spotify or iTunes if you have a moment, and share the show with anyone who's passionate about welding. Hope you all have an awesome week. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.